Hello and
Hello
welcome
and
to
welcome to
Road to
Road to
Never
Never
Again,
Again,
the
the podcast
podcast
where
where
we
we
explore the
explore
10
the 10
stages of
stages of
genocide.
genocide.
We are
We
your
are your
hosts,
hosts, Nevaeh.
and Alyssa.
Today
Today,
we will
we
be
will be talking
talking
about how
about how
genocide
genocide
had
had
happened in
happened in
Armenia
Armenia
and
and
understanding and
understanding
thinking of
and
ways
thinking
to
of
prevent
ways to prevent
genocide from
genocide from
happening
happening
again
again
today and
today
in the
and in the
future.
future. A brief summary on the Armenian genocide, which was the year 1915 to 1923, where mass killings, torture, and deportations of Armenians happened by the Ottoman Empire during World War One.
It had started by arrests and executions of Armenian leaders, which led to large massacres, forced marches, torture, starvation, and more.
Around 15 million Armenians were killed or died from mistreatment.
Even though many people and countries see this as genocide, Turkey and others still deny that it was an act of genocide.
Well,
For today,
today,
to
to
help
help us
us
understand
understand
this
this
event and
event
its
and its
impact, we
impact,
did
we did
great
great
research on
research on
genocide and the
genocide and
event
the event
that
that took
took
place.
place.
Now, the reason I had studied the specific historical event is because Armenia has deep history and it's a small country. So, knowing that genocide could still happen in small countries made me curious how it was during genocide.
I wanted to research Armenia specifically because it was more interesting than most. Given that it's a small country, the genocide that took place was very heartbreaking and changed thousands of lives.
The way we studied this event was from solid websites to find hard evidence. These websites contain the information of how genocide happened, how Armenians were treated, and even the information based off of interviews with survivors.
I think this event was truly devastating to not only Armenians, but so many other people in the world. The information we share is 100% accurate, given that we use solid websites to get our facts from, and we put it into a podcast for viewers to better understand the dangers of genocide and for those who haven't studied it yet.
I agree with you on that. Let's first explain how the 10 stages of genocide in Armenia had happened.
We will summarize each stage and what was done during that stage. First, classification in Armenia happened as the Ottoman Empire classified its population based off of ethnicity and religion. So, since Armenians were Christian, they had gotten the label of eternal enemy by the government.
The second stage, symbolization, happened as Armenians were identified by their religion and culture, which made them outsiders. Also, many Armenian soldiers in the Ottoman army were segregated from Turkish troops before being killed.
Third, discrimination. Armenians were stripped of their homes, businesses, assets, and put on the streets. Laws and police targeted them and restricted their rights.
Fourth, dehumanization. Propaganda spread showing Armenians as traitors, enemies, and threats. The government portrayed Armenians as diseases and parasites. They were also accused of conspiring with Russia during World War I while starving and beating them.
Fifth, organization. There had been secretly planned exterminations and special killing units that carried out mass executions and killed thousands.
Sixth, polarization. There had been the campaign of deportation, mass killings, and Armenians were arrested and executed, which isolated the Armenian population. A quote to go with this states Armenians charged that the campaign was a deliberate attempt to destroy the Armenian people.
Seventh, which is preparation. Preparatories had planned the genocide, doing forced deportations. The soldiers had rounded up Armenians and deported them to concentration camps while also sending them on death marches where they had been starved and abused.
Eighth, persecution. The Armenian soldiers had relocated women, kids, and elders, kidnapping, raping, forcing them into slavery, starving, and providing little to no help. Armenians were killed through mass shootings, forced labor, and camps. According to evidence, it states the remaining Armenians, primarily women, the elderly, and children, were relocated from strategically important areas.
Second to last, 9. Extermination. Hundreds of thousands of Armenians had been deported to concentration camps, sent on death marches, and been unalived through mass killings, drowned, and burned. The Ottoman government had destroyed Armenian communities and used direct violence to wipe out the population.
Now, lastly, the last stage of genocide is denial, and it happened by the Turkish government, denied that any extermination of Armenians happened. They had claimed the deaths were due to harsh conditions, and the Turkish government still denies that the Armenians were not a targeted extermination campaign. Records had been destroyed, and official narratives continue to reject responsibility.
Now we
Now
will
we will
dive into
dive
some
into some
discussion
discussion
questions
questions
about this
about
event.
this
The
event.
first
The
question
first
being
question
asked,
being
can
asked is,
genocide
can
happen
genocide happen present
present
day?
day? I think genocide can still happen to this day, as history has shown that tragedies can arise from discrimination, racism, religious tensions, and violence. The list I just provided still happens towards others in present times. Now, there might not ever be another case of genocide, but I think it could still happen in the world around us.
I would say yes, genocide can still happen present day. It just be very difficult for it to happen. Factors such as propaganda, political instability, ethnic and religion hate, and lack of international intervention can make it plausible.
The
The
second
second
question being
question
asked
being
is,
asked is, how can
how
we
can we
recognize the
recognize the
early
early
signs
signs
of
of genocide?
genocide? There are 10 stages of genocide, and it's a pattern, so ways to recognize the early signs is to look for hatred against certain groups, forced relocations, mass arrests, propaganda, downplaying crimes, and dehumanization against some.
To recognize early stages of genocide, we look for signs like discrimination and dehumanization of targeted groups. Being aware of these indicators can help prevent escalation in the future.
Now, the
Now,
last
the last
question we will
question we
be
will be
answering to end
answering
this
to end this
podcast is,
podcast is,
what are
what
ways
are
we can
ways we
take
can take
action to
action to
prevent
prevent
genocide
genocide in the
in the
future?
future?
There are many ways to take action in preventing genocide from happening again, such as government action, education and awareness programs, and human rights organizations. You, as a civilian, can take action by educating yourself on the signs and dangers of genocide.
There are many ways that we can take action to prevent genocide in the future, and some of those ways are to raise awareness, document evidence on the early signs of it, and you can even speak up about it on platforms or go to businesses and ask them to take action.
Well, that
Well, that
is
is all the
all the
time we
time
have
we
for
have for
today.
today.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much
much
for
for
joining
joining
us
us
on
on
this
the episode of
episode
Road to
of
Never
Road
Again.
to Never
We
Again.
hope
We hope
you
you enjoyed
enjoyed
our
the
discussion on the
discussion on the
10
10
stages of
stages of
genocide
genocide
in
in
Armenia.
Armenia. If
If you
you
have
have
any
any
feedback
feedback or
or
suggestions
suggestions
for
for
future
future
episodes,
episodes,
please feel free to
please feel free to
contact us
contact us
at
at
roadtoneveragain
roadtoneveragain
at
at
gmail.com.
gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe
To
and rate us on your favorite podcast
and don't forget
platform.
to
Until next time,
subscribe and
happy
rate
learning.
us on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, happy learning.